All right, to start our new unit, we are going to look at graphing. So this is going to be an introduction to graphing. So make sure you put today's date at the top corner of your notes. First thing we're going to look at is defining some terms that we look at when we're dealing with graphing. So we've just practiced plotting points and we know what the coordinate plane is. We did the x and y's and just practiced plotting some points. Now we're going to start breaking those down and looking at some relationships between those points. So the first word we're going to talk about is a relation. So in math class, a relation is when you have a set of ordered pairs. So for example, I'll just write EX as example. A set of ordered pairs is when you just have a bunch of ordered pairs that are put together into a set. When you're looking at relations, you can show it as graphs, tables, and ordered pairs. So when we're working with relations, we're going to see if we can convert the relations between the different types, so ordered pairs, tables, and graphs. And then within the relations, we're going to define two words that might be new to you for algebra, and it's going to be domain and range. So when we deal with graphs, we talk about domain and range, and domain is just the set of x values in a relation. So it's all of your x coordinates or x values in a relation. And the range, that's the y values in a relation. So let's take a look at some examples of what we mean by domain and range and using a relation. Let's say I gave you this set of ordered pairs. Five comma 2, negative 7 comma 1, 0 comma 3, and 4 comma negative 4. If I ask you to convert those into a table, you should be able to create a table where you can list the ordered pairs in table form. So when you're making a table, you have an X column and then a Y column. And then you're just listing the values from your from your coordinates. So my X and Y, remember coordinates are listed as X comma Y, would be 5 with 2. -7 with 1. 0 with 3. And 4 to -4. From there, we can translate those or transfer those points and coordinates into a graph. So here's where we're going to use the first example, or graph example number 1, and just put those points on a graph. That's how we practice graphing. So if you have your graphs, you can tape them down here, or just make sure you leave space if you need to borrow tape. All right. So now I'm going to take those points and just plot them onto my graph. So I've got 5, 2. So I'm going to go start in the center, and then I count 5 to the right and up 2. Remember, you always do your X values left and right. So positive to the right, negative to the left, and then you go up or down with your Y value. So positive for the Y value. If it's positive, you go up, or negative, you go down. So then -7, 1, I would have to go -7 to the left and up 1. 0, 3 is going to be right there in the center at 0 and then up 3. And then 4, -4. And those are my points from that graph. So you should be comfortable going from ordered pairs to a table to a graph, and in any direction, really. If I give you one form, you should be able to convert it into the others. So the piece that's probably new for you that you haven't seen before is when we deal with domain and range. So domain was just all of our X values. So if I look at my table, let me just kind of readjust my camera here. The domain we do these kind of fancy curly brackets to list domain and range. The domain is my X values in order from least to greatest. So my smallest X value is -7. So I list that one first. Then I go to my next smallest, which is 0. Then in order from least to greatest. And then we kind of use the brackets and close them there. So I'm just listing my numbers in order from least to greatest. So I go from -7 to 0 to 4 to 5. Those are my X values. The range same idea. I'm using my Y values this time, and I'm putting them in order from least to greatest. So the range for this set is from -4, then 1, then 2, then 3. And then we close it off with those curly brackets. And that's really all it is. You're just looking at the domain and range of your set, which is the X values for the domain and the Y values for the range. Let's take a look at another example. This time I'm going to give you a graph, and you're going to convert it into the table and ordered pairs. All right, so now we've got example 2. Here I'm going to give you a graph first this time, and we'll convert that into a table and then ordered pairs. So now you're going to want to place your graph on your paper, on your notes. This is the one that has the dots on it. It should be numbered number 2. And then you can make sure to tape it in there. Okay, so when I'm going from a graph to a table, I just want to list my coordinates. Again, I make an XY table. And I'm just going to list the coordinates that I see them. And I think for this one, we can just list the coordinates right on the graph, because that might help us as we're plotting our points, or trying to get the values of our points. So I'm just going to figure out where is the location of this dot. So I'm going to go over -6 down to -5. So this one's at -6, comma, -5. For this point, remember this is at 0, comma, -7. So 0 comes first, and then -7. Here I've got 2, comma, 4. And here I've got 4, comma, -7. So I can list these points now in my table. -6, -5, 2, 2, 4, 0, -7, and 4, -7. The order isn't extremely important. As long as you've got all 4 points listed, that's fine. So I've got my graph, I've listed the ordered pairs for each of them, and I've got the table. So putting it all together, I can now do my domain and range again, and having the table makes it nice and easy. Remember, domain is just all of the x values, and the range is the y values in order from least to greatest. So for my domain, I do my little curly bracket. My lowest value is -6, then 0, 2, 4. For the range, my lowest value here is actually -7, and it occurs twice. When you see a number occur twice, you only write it once. So you don't repeat numbers when you're listing the domain and range. So I have -7, then -5, then 4. And then I use my curly brackets to indicate the end of that set. So at this point, you should be comfortable with plotting points on a graph, listing them in a table, and identifying the coordinates from a graph. And then after you've done that, you should be able to identify the domain and range of any relation that I give you. So now you should be able to try those practice problems for your homework.